She was 19, the first in her village to win a full scholarship to study medicine. But the night she told her family, tragedy struck. In one moment, her dreams vanished, replaced by the crushing responsibility of raising her siblings. Years later, something happened that no one in the village could believe. 19-year-old Amara was different from other girls in her village, and everyone knew it. While her age mates gossiped about boys and planned traditional marriages, she spent her evenings by candlelight, devouring every medical book she could find. Her fingers, stained with ink from countless notes, moved across worn pages like a pianist, playing silent melodies of knowledge. "Amara, why do you waste candles reading those books?" her mother, Amma, would often ask. "No man wants a wife who knows more about bones than cooking." But Amara's father, Kwaku, would defend her. "Let the girl dream, Amma. Intelligence is a gift from God." This morning, like every morning for the past 3 years, Amara rose before dawn to study. Her small wooden desk, built by her father's own hands, was covered with medical journals borrowed from the traveling clinic. She whispered the names of bones and organs like prayers: femur, tibia, sternum, liver, pancreas. "Sister!" 8-year-old Kofi burst into her room, his school uniform already wrinkled from playing. "Mama says come eat." Amara smiled at her youngest brother. Kofi was brilliant, solving math problems in his head faster than most adults. 12-year-old Akosua had inherited her mother's gift for storytelling, often entertaining the whole village with her tales. And Kwame, 10 years old, could fix anything with his hands, just like Papa. They were her world, this family. But deep in her heart, Amara carried a dream bigger than their small house, bigger than their village, bigger than anything she had ever dared speak aloud. She wanted to heal people, to understand the mysteries of the human body, to be the doctor her village had never had. As she closed her medical book and prepared for another day of helping her mother with chores, selling mangoes at the Saturday market, and dreaming of impossible things, Amara had no idea that today would bring news that would change everything. The postman's bicycle's bell rang through the morning air, but she barely noticed. She was too busy practicing how to pronounce stethoscope correctly. The sound of tearing paper echoed through the small mud brick house like thunder before rain. Amara's hands trembled as she held the acceptance letter from the University of Cape Town. The government scholarship would cover everything: tuition, books, even a small living allowance. At 19, she was the first person in her village to receive such an honor. The paper felt warm between her fingers like hope itself. "Sister, what's that?" 8-year-old Kofi peeked over her shoulder, his school uniform torn at the knee from playing football in the dust. "Nothing important," Amara whispered, quickly folding the letter. How could she tell him it was everything? Her ticket out of poverty, her chance to become the doctor she dreamed of since she was his age, watching the traveling clinic treat her grandmother's infected wound with medicines that seemed like magic. The smell of palm oil and cassava drifted from the kitchen, where her mother Amma was preparing their evening meal. The familiar aroma should have comforted her, but today it felt like chains around her ankles. "Amara, come help me finish this dinner," her mother called. "I want to get something from your father at the site." She tucked the letter under her mattress, beside her medical textbooks, the one she'd bought with money earned from selling mangoes at the market every Saturday for 3 years. Her callous fingers traced the worn covers. Soon, she'd be studying from real university books, learning from professors who had traveled the world. That evening, as the children sat around their small wooden table, waiting for their parents to come back so they can have dinner, Amara watched her siblings' faces in the flickering candlelight. 12-year-old Akosua needed new school shoes. Her toes were already poking through the old ones. 10-year-old Kwame coughed constantly, but medicine cost more than their family earned in a month. And little Kofi, brilliant Kofi, who could solve math problems in his head faster than most adults, he deserved every chance she never had. A sharp knock interrupted her thoughts. Their neighbor, Auntie Ajoa, burst through the door, her face streaked with tears. "Kwaku, Amma,
come quickly. There's been an accident at the construction site." The world tilted. Amara felt her mother's hand slip from hers as they all rushed into the darkness following Auntie Ajua's urgent footsteps. Behind them, the acceptance letter lay forgotten under the mattress, its golden opportunity slowly turning to dust. What none of them knew was that this night would steal everything and years later give back something even more precious.
2 weeks had passed since the accident. 2 weeks since the scaffolding collapsed at the construction site, taking both Amara's parents in a single, horrible moment. The scholarship letter now felt like a cruel joke from the ancestors. Amara sat on the steps of their house, watching relatives and neighbors stream in and out, bringing food and condolences that couldn't fill the gaping hole in their lives. Her university acceptance letter was still hidden under her mattress, but it might as well have been on the moon. "Sister, I'm hungry," Kofi whispered, tugging at her black funeral dress. She looked down at his small face, then at Akosua, who was trying to comfort crying maybe Kwame. At 19, she was now the oldest, the responsible one, the one who had to choose between her dreams and her family's survival. Uncle Ya, her father's brother, approached with heavy steps. His bare breath made her stomach turn as he leaned close. "Amara, you know I cannot take 4 children," he said, not bothering to lower his voice. "But I can take the boys. They can work on my farm. The girls, maybe Auntie Grace in Accra can use Akoso as a house girl." "No," the word escaped her lips before she could think. "We stay together." Uncle Ya laughed bitterly. "Child, dreams don't put food in bellies. You think you can care for 3 children with what? Your school certificates?" That night, after everyone had left, Amara pulled out the university letter. The deadline to accept was in 3 days. She could almost taste the freedom. Lecture halls instead of market stalls, medical journals instead of recipe books, a future where her mind could soar instead of being caged by circumstances. But as she looked at her sleeping siblings, curled together on the mat they now shared, she knew the truth. Some cages were made of love. The next morning, she walked to the post office and sent her reply to the university. "I regretfully declined this opportunity." If this story is touching your heart, hit that subscribe button because what happens next will show you the true meaning of sacrifice and hope. 3 months later, Amara had found work at the local clinic as a cleaner. It wasn't medicine, but at least she could smell the antiseptic, hear the medical terms, pretend she belonged in that world of healing. The pay was small, but combined with her weekend market earnings, it was enough to keep her family together. She would wake up at 4 a.m., prepare breakfast, get the children ready for school, walk them there, work all day, walk them home, help with homework, cook dinner, and collapse into bed only to repeat it all again. Her medical textbooks gathered dust, but they were together, and for now, that had to be enough. Little did she know, the ancestors were already weaving a different pattern for her life. 5 years felt like 50 when measured in sacrificed dreams. Amara wiped the sweat from her forehead as she finished mopping the clinic floors. At 24, she had become the efficient guardian her siblings needed. But sometimes she caught her reflection in the medical cabinet glass and didn't recognize the tired woman staring back. "Amara," Dr. Mensah called from his office. "Can you bring me the supply inventory?" She hurried to his office, notepad in hand. Dr. Mensah was reviewing patient charts, his brow furrowed with concentration. This was her favorite part of the day, being close enough to glimpse the medical world she'd abandoned. "You know," Dr. Mensah said without looking up, "Mrs. Asante mentioned you correctly identified her grandson's symptoms as malaria before I even examined him." Amara's cheeks burned. "I'm sorry, doctor. I didn't mean to overstep." "Overstep?" He finally looked at her, his kind eyes curious. "Amara, how did you know?" She shifted uncomfortably. I read sometimes, medical books, old ones." "Show me." Her hands trembled as she pulled out the worn medical textbook she always carried, a habit from her dreams of university. Dr. Mensah's eyes widened as he flipped through pages covered in her neat handwriting, detailed notes in the margins, highlighted passages. "My God, child, where did you learn all this?" Before she could answer, the clinic door burst open. Akosua rushed in, her school uniform stained with tears and dust. "Sister, come quickly, it's coffee." The world tilted again. Amara's heart hammered as she followed Akosua into the dusty street. A crowd had gathered around the school football field where 13-year-old Kofi lay motionless, his leg twisted at an unnatural angle. "He fell from the mango tree," someone explained. "The bone, I think it's broken." Amara knelt beside her brother, her hands automatically checking his pulse, examining the injury. Everything she had secretly studied came flooding back. The signs of shock, the proper way to stabilize a fracture, and the urgency of getting him proper care. "We need to get into the hospital in the city. Now," she said firmly. "But, sister," Akosua whispered, "the transport costs." Amara felt the weight of her family's survival crushing down on her shoulders. The hospital would cost more money than they had. Money she had been saving for Kwame's high school fees. Money they needed for food, for rent, for the 1,000 small emergencies that kept coming. Dr. Mensah appeared beside them, his medical bag in hand. He examined Kofi quickly, then looked directly at Amara. "You are right. He needs surgery. I can arrange transport. But..." He paused, studying her face. "Amara, I want to talk to you after we handle this." The hospital waiting room smelled like disinfectant and desperation. Amara sat with her hands folded, watching doctors in white coats stride purposefully down the corridors. Once, that could have been her. Kofi's surgery had been successful. The doctor said he'd walk normally again, but the bill made Amara's stomach clench. 3 months of her salary gone in one night. She'd have to pick up extra cleaning jobs, maybe sell her mother's jewelry, the last precious connection to her parents. "Amara," Dr. Mensah appeared in the doorway. "May I speak with you?" They walked to the hospital's small garden, where frangipani flowers released their sweet perfume into the evening air. Dr. Mensah was quiet for a long moment, then turned to face her. "I've been thinking about what happened today, how you handled Kofi's injury, your knowledge from those medical books. Amara, you have a gift." She shook her head. "Dr. Mensah, I'm just a cleaner who reads too much." "No," his voice was firm. "You're a healer who's been forced to clean floors. There's a difference." He pulled out an envelope, thick and official looking. "There's a medical scholarship program sponsored by an international foundation. They're looking for candidates with practical experience and proven dedication. I've already written your recommendation letter." Amara's hands shook as she took the envelope. Inside was an application for a full medical degree program, tuition, living expenses, even family support included. "But my siblings..." "The scholarship includes a monthly stipend for family care, enough for them to stay in good schools, have proper housing, medical care. Amara, this is your chance." Her heart soared for exactly 3 seconds before reality crashed back down. "Dr. Mensah, I appreciate this, but I can't. Who would watch them? Who would make sure Kofi does his physical therapy? That Akosua stays focused on her studies instead of running around with boys? That Kwame takes his asthma medicine? Your siblings are not babies anymore. Akosua is 17, Kwame is 15. They're capable of more than you think." "You don't understand. The words burst out of her like water through a broken dam. I promised my parents I'd keep this family together. I've sacrificed everything for them. My education, my dreams, my chance at love, everything. I cannot abandon them now. Dr. Mensah was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was gentle but direct. Amara, answer me honestly. If you continue as you are now, what happens in 10 years, 20 years? Will your siblings thank you for making them dependent on your sacrifice? Or will they carry the guilt of your buried dreams for the rest of their lives? The question hit her like a physical blow. That night, she sat at the kitchen table, staring at the application under the dim light of their single bulb. Around her, the house creaked with familiar sounds. Kofi's gentle snoring, Akosua whispering prayers before sleep, Kwame's labored breathing that worsened when he was stressed. But the most terrifying sound of all was the voice in her own head, whispering, "What if I'm not brave enough to choose myself?" Amara barely slept. She sat at the kitchen table until dawn. The scholarship application spread before her like a map to a country she was too frightened to visit. When Akosua emerged for school, her sister's eyes immediately found the papers. "What's this, sister?" There was no point in hiding anymore. Amara's voice was hoarse from exhaustion as she explained everything: the scholarship, the opportunity, the impossible choice. Akosua listened quietly, then sat down across from her. At 17, she looked so much like their mother that it took Amara's breath away. "You think we don't know?" Akosua said softly. "What no?" "How you cry at night sometimes, how you touch those medical books when you think we are not looking, how your face changes when you hear about someone our age going to university." Akosua reached across the table and took her hand. "Sister, you saved us, but you don't have to destroy yourself to keep saving us." Kwame and Kofi appeared in the doorway, drawn by their voices. Soon all four siblings sat around the table where their parents once blessed their meals. "I'm scared," Amara admitted, her voice barely a whisper. "What if I fail? What if something happens to you while I'm gone? What if I'm too old, too far behind?" "Sister," Kofi said, his voice stronger despite his healing leg, "you taught me that falling down doesn't make you weak. Staying down does." Kwame nodded. "And you always told us that education is the one thing no one can steal from us. Why should you be different?" This is the moment that changes everything, so make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss how this incredible story ends. That afternoon, Amara walked to the clinic with the completed application in her hands. Dr. Mensah smiled when he saw her determined expression. "I need to know they'll be okay," she said. "I've spoken with the pastor's wife at the church. She's agreed to check on them weekly. The Scholarship Foundation also has a local coordinator who will ensure their needs are met. Amara, you are not abandoning them. You are showing them what is possible." 3 weeks later, the acceptance letter arrived. This time around, when Amara held it, it felt like holding sunrise itself. But as she prepared to leave for the city, doubts crept back in like fog. The night before her departure, she found herself in her parents' old room clutching their photograph. "Mama, Papa, I don't know if this is what you would want. I don't know if I'm being selfish or brave." The photograph remained silent, but somehow in the familiar curve of her mother's smile and the proud set of her father's shoulders, she found her answer. What she didn't know was that her leap of faith would create ripples that would transform not just her life, but her entire community. 7 years later, the same hands that once scrubbed clinic floors now held a stethoscope. Dr. Amara Ose walked through the doors of the regional hospital, Her white coat, crisp with authority, earned through years of relentless study and sacrifice. At 31, she carried herself with the quiet confidence of someone who had faced their deepest fears and emerged transformed. The phone call had come that morning, a medical emergency in her home village. As the hospital's newest doctor, she'd volunteered to lead the emergency response team. "Doctor," the nurse said as they prepared to leave, "the patient is a teenage boy with a compound fracture from falling out of a tree. The local clinic tried to stabilize him, but—" "I know the clinic," Amara interrupted, memories flooding back. "Let's go." The drive to her village felt like traveling through time. As their ambulance pulled up to the familiar building where she'd once mopped floors, a crowd gathered. She stepped out with her medical bag in hand and heard the whispers. "Is that Amara? The girl who left for school? She's a doctor now." Inside the clinic, Dr. Mensah, now graying but still kind, greeted her with tears in his eyes. "I knew you'd come back," he said simply. The patient was a teenage boy about Kofi's age when he'd been injured. As Amara walked to stabilize him, she felt the circle completing itself. Her hands, once uncertain, now moved with practiced precision. The knowledge she'd fought so hard to gain flowed through her like a river that had finally found its path to the sea. "She needs surgery," she announced. "We can do it here." After the successful operation, Amara stepped outside to find her siblings waiting. Akosua, now 24 and a teacher herself, stood beside Kwame, who wore the uniform of a police officer. Kofi, 20, was in his final year of engineering school. His own scholarship earned through the foundation that had first supported their family. "Sister," Akosua said, her voice thick with emotion, "we're so proud of you." "You saved that boy," Kwame added, "just like you saved us." But Kofi, always the philosopher, said what they were all thinking. "You didn't just become a doctor, sister. You showed us all what was possible." That evening, the village gathered for an impromptu celebration. As Amara looked around at the faces of people she'd grown up with, she realized something profound. Her sacrifice had been real, but so was her reward. By choosing herself, she hadn't lost her family. She had given them the greatest gift possible: the courage to dream their own dreams. As the festivities wound down, Dr. Mensah approached her with a proposal that would bring her story full circle. "The clinic needs a permanent doctor," he said. "Someone who understands this community. Someone who knows that medicine is about more than treating symptoms. It's about healing communities." Amara looked out at her village, at the children playing in the dust as she once had, at the mothers carrying babies who deserve the best medical care possible, at the fathers working hard to provide for families they loved more than life itself. "I accept," she said. 6 months later, Dr. Amara Ose opened the doors of the new Ose Family Medical Center, funded by the international foundation that once gave her a scholarship. On the wall of her office hung 2 photographs, one of her parents smiling with pride, and another of 4 siblings, arms around each other, proving that sometimes the greatest courage is learning to choose yourself so you can better serve others. In African culture, we say it takes a village to raise a child. Amara learned that sometimes it takes one person's courage to raise a village. What dreams are you carrying? What opportunities are you afraid to take? Remember Amara's story. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for others is to choose yourself. Subscribe for more inspiring stories that remind us that our greatest obstacles often hide our greatest opportunities. Your dreams are waiting. Will you be brave enough to choose them? I hope you enjoyed this story.
Kindly share your thoughts about this story with me in the comment section below. Give this story a thumbs up and share this video with your loved ones. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't done so by now. Thanks for watching.